when you look at where we are as we start our new future, and I've been in the business for 33 years, and you can remember Jimmy Carter and Arab oil embargo days, and all the things that people talked about was supply and price of energy in the 70s, and what have we done since then. But I do believe, well, first of all, we haven't done enough, but secondly, that we are on the verge of a new awareness, a new broader support for a new energy future. And President Obama will call it a new energy economy. And there is a growing interest and realization that maybe there's some way that we can grow the New Hampshire or the nation's economy on the energy front and become less dependent on foreign sources of fossil fuels in particular, but also a real strong emphasis on environmental policy, particularly in the area of climate change, global warming, and two sectors that produce CO2 are energy and transportation are two of the biggest sectors. So there's great focus on environmental policy and energy policy. And many of you have heard me talk in the past, and you've heard the governor say that the state has the goal of having 25% of energy portfolio, electricity portfolio from renewable energy. And that's a goal we strongly support, although I think it's going to take a tremendous effort to get there, and that's 20% by 25. Now, if you look at the second dot up there, what many states are doing is looking for a carbon lower future. And the numbers that are coming out is that the nation, the world, needs to reduce carbon emissions by 80% by the year 2050, which that might sound like a long time, but it isn't. But if you think about 80% of carbon less power producing, for instance, and we have a goal of 25 by 25, which is going to be very hard to meet, I would say that you can never have enough renewables. You can never, and so we have quite a unprecedented challenge in front of us to really get on that path and to get there. And our company strongly supports that. We would also say that we are kind of off to a slow start. The good news is the state supports us as a matter of policy. The federal government supports it as a matter of policy. And so we have to convert that thinking to real action. Now, as far as how we go about the new energy equation that I call it in the future, and I think this is widely accepted. It certainly is our focus. And one is to expand energy efficiency. The first and most cost-effective energy is the one you don't use. So if there's a way to be more efficient in your operations or to use less, and at the same time have your lifestyle and be able to conduct business, energy efficiency is really top of the list. So in general terms, the idea is to double the amount of efforts and money that's been put into that. The money does come from you, does come from consumers, and that is really as a matter of policy. So that's one that we strongly support, and that it's widely supported. And the question now is, how do you do it, and how do you do it effectively so you wisely spend money on the government overseeing money to be more effective in energy efficiency. The second one is New England is 75% fossil fuel. And really, you have to have a tremendous amount of renewable energy and other energy to not rely on fossil fuels. So to be realistic, we will be depending on fossil fuel for a long time. And it will really depend on how fast and how good we are at getting other sources of energy. And so the policy that the state has had and that we've had is to keep your current plants as clean as possible, make them as clean as possible. As we transition to this longer-term carbonless world that we haven't figured out exactly how to get to yet, but we certainly all want to get there. And then certainly we have to build more renewable energy sources, both in the state. This certainly is happening outside the state and outside New England. We certainly think a lot more should be done inside the state, and there are policies that can help do that. I will tell you that the recession in the economy is working very much against that right now. And in my own estimation, renewable energy development in New Hampshire has been set back 2 to 5 years as a matter of policy in the recession. And then import clean hydropower. Some of you might know that our neighbors to the north in Quebec are 97% hydroelectric, and they're building more, and they'd love to sell power to New England. So there's a resource for New England to take advantage of that is low carbon, hydroelectric, and can help us meet this goal of 80% reduction by the year 2050. I put on this slide the revolution of renewable. I think that's an overstatement. It's not quite a revolution, although very, very strong interest, but I don't think the actions have been revolutionary yet, but they probably need to be in order to really site and build renewable plants, which are not necessarily economic. They do require government subsidies. They do require financial assistance to move to a lower carbon emitting power supply. From our perspectives, there is a real disconnect in the state policy. The state has a strong policy to advance renewables in the state for the purpose of creating jobs and obviously for environmental impact, yet state policy does not allow its largest regulated company or any regulated company from doing this. So as you heard me say in the past, it's kind of strange that we have this requirement to have 25% renewables by 2025, yet we're not allowed to own and build a renewable power plant. So that's, you've heard me say this, I've been saying this for about 4 years now, and maybe one of these days we'll get that one worked out. The regulated utilities do not have the same financial crunch capital problems that others have. When the good times are very good, our earnings look lower than everyone else. When bad times are there, they look a little bit better. But either way, we're viewed as more stable than most, and really we are credit worthy, and we don't have some of the same problems that other businesses have had. There are two major renewable power plants in New Hampshire, both were a result of BusinessNH. One is a conversion of a coal plant to wood in Portsmouth that we did, award-winning, and the other one was a wind project in Hampshire, which we don't own, but we entered a power agreement to enable that to happen. Beyond that, not a whole lot happening on renewables in this state. But we think that could be part of the new economy, the new energy economy. Certainly President Obama believes that way. And a lot of emphasis on the stimulus package that's being talked about. It seems like everybody wants some of that money. We'll see how it turns out. But there is talk about some of that money being diverted to the energy sector to help with transmission and with renewables. And so we're all waiting to see how that actually works. I would emphasize that in New Hampshire, a small state, cooperation is essential. That what we need to do is work together, because this is such a daunting task. And it can only happen in a small state if we work together. I believe other countries and other regions of the country are ahead of us, and so that would be my other message is we have a lot of work ahead of us, but there is a way to do this with great cooperation.